Disclaimer before we begin. Viewer discretion is advised. The following audio is a dramatized reading of public court proceedings from the 6th day of a federal trial in 2025. It is based on real statements reported from the courtroom, including those from both legal teams and the witness Nique. To comply with YouTube's community guidelines, some language has been modified or censored. The content remains faithful to the reported testimony without sensationalism or distortion and reflects only publicly available information. The 6th day of Diddy's trial began with a buzz that filled the air outside the courthouse. Reporters crowded the hallway's cameras, flashing their whispers, hinting at what major revelation might come next. Everyone expected something big, but no one could have predicted that Nique, the Oscar-winning actress, comedian, and outspoken critic of Hollywood, would walk into the courtroom and turn everything upside down. The trial had already captured the world's attention. Diddy, a titan of the music industry, faced a string of serious allegations. The previous days had brought testimonies that stunned the public, but nothing compared to what Nique delivered. She didn't just share a personal story. She exposed a dark web of power in the entertainment industry, tying Diddy to influential figures like Tyler Perry, Oprah Winfrey, and Bishop T.D. Jakes. Her words weren't just testimony, they were a bombshell that shook the entire room. By early morning, the courtroom was packed. Journalists lined the corridors, eager to catch every moment. They knew each day of this trial could produce a headline. But when Nique quietly entered through a side door, no one expected her to become the day's focal point. Dressed simply yet radiating confidence, her sharp eyes suggested she had been preparing for this moment for years. Diddy's legal team stirred immediately. They exchanged uneasy glances as if Nique's presence was an unexpected variable. On the prosecution's side, lawyers hurriedly shuffled papers, seemingly aware of her arrival. The atmosphere grew heavy. Diddy, dressed in a charcoal gray suit, sat upright but couldn't hide his tension. He leaned toward his lawyer, whispering with a trace of confusion. Though cameras weren't allowed inside, sketch artists captured the scene. They noted every detail on Diddy's face, a slight twitch in his eye, a tightening of his jaw. It was the first time in the trial that his usual calm demeanor showed cracks. As Nique took the witness stand, the room fell silent. She settled into her seat, adjusted her posture, and spoke with a clear, steady voice. "I was asked to come here to tell the truth, and that's exactly what I'm going to do." For years, Nique had warned the world about the hidden side of Hollywood. She had spoken out about being blackballed by Tyler Perry, Oprah Winfrey, and Lee Daniels after refusing unfair demands. Back then, people mocked her, called her bitter, or accused her of exaggerating. They said she was just seeking attention, but now, seated in a federal courtroom under oath, those warnings carried new weight. Nique didn't just speak, she brought evidence, detailed timelines, audio recordings, and truths she had held onto for years. The judge allowed her to read from a timeline she had carefully prepared. This document outlined her interactions with key figures now circling the trial. It listed exact dates of meetings, phone calls, broken promises, and deals made in private rooms under the pretense of opportunity. She noted every event from discussions with Tyler Perry to unexplained rejections for major roles. The prosecutors nodded, some flipping through notes from Cassie Ventura's earlier testimony as if searching for connections. At that moment, the trial expanded beyond Diddy. It became a broader story about a system of power that had shielded him for years. Nique's next statement targeted Tyler Perry, and it hit like a thunderbolt. She recounted a private phone call with Perry in 2018, during which he admitted that her blackballing from Hollywood was unjust. "He told me he was wrong." Nique said, her voice calm but forceful. "He promised to apologize publicly, but he never did." According to her, Perry explained that a public apology would affect people who weren't ready to be exposed. When asked who he meant, Monique looked directly at the jury and said, "Puff. That's who he was worried about. Puff. Daddy Diddy, whatever you want to call him." The courtroom buzzed. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Even the prosecutors exchanged surprised glances. This wasn't just Hollywood gossip. It was a serious allegation suggesting widespread collusion in the entertainment industry. Monique went further, stating that Perry had warned her he couldn't go public because too many people were tied to non-disclosure agreements, NDAs. She presented a written transcript of a phone call in which Perry said, "There are things going on that I can't be connected to publicly. We've all seen things at Puff's parties that we're not supposed to talk about." The judge permitted the transcript to be entered as evidence, but held off on allowing the audio pending authentication. This moment was powerful not just for the accusation, but for the chilling realization that multiple Hollywood elites might have known about events at Diddy's gatherings and stayed silent to protect their own reputations. Diddy's legal team quickly objected, arguing that Monique's testimony was speculative, but the prosecution countered that it provided critical context about how silence and reputation management had shielded Diddy for years, possibly enabling misconduct. Then came a moment that made everyone in the room turn their heads. Monique took a deep breath, adjusted her microphone, and spoke words that would dominate news headlines within hours. "I've been to one of Diddy's parties," she said, "and I left because I saw something I wasn't supposed to." She described being invited to a private event in Los Angeles in 2006. The invitation came through a friend, another actor, who described it as an exclusive networking opportunity. Monique arrived at a lavish estate in the Hollywood Hills. A valet took her phone, must be at the gate. She was escorted inside where candles flickered. R&B music played softly, and groups of male and female guests were ushered into back rooms. "I remember a woman in high heels and a man wearing nothing but a bathrobe," she recalled. "One of Diddy's assistants approached me and said, 'It's all about the experience here. You're safe, just sign the NDA.' That's when I walked out." Monique didn't sign. She never returned. But afterward, whispers began. She noticed her phone rang less often. Invitations to film festivals and offers for major roles dried up. A producer once told her she was labeled difficult. Monique never forgot that night, and she always suspected that leaving the party had made her a liability to those who organized it. The prosecutors asked if she believed this experience was part of a structured system at Diddy's events. Monique nodded. "I think it was carefully orchestrated. When I refused to play along, I was cut out." Her account echoed what Cassie Ventura and other witnesses had described: candlelit rooms, cameras, set-up experiences involving hired escorts, and luxury venues disguised as networking hubs. What set Monique's story apart was her perspective. She wasn't dependent on Diddy or anyone else. She entered the party as a respected actress and left with her career slowly unraveling behind her. When asked if she believed Tyler Perry had actively protected Diddy's image, Monique answered without hesitation, "Yes. I believe it was calculated, coordinated, and part of a larger effort to keep things quiet." She brought up a moment that had gone viral on social media: Tyler Perry walking into Bishop T.D. Jakes' megachurch and writing $1 million check in front of the entire congregation. "People saw it as a generous act," Monique said. "But I saw it as a transaction," she continued. "That donation wasn't just charity, it was damage control. That church was a shield, and people like Diddy used it to build alliances that made them untouchable." Murmurs spread through the courtroom. Even the judge looked up, watching the jury scribble notes intently. Monique testified that around the time of Perry's donation, rumors about Diddy and his parties mysteriously vanished from gossip blogs. I knew then that people were being paid, influenced, or silenced, she said. That $1 million wasn't just for Jakes. It was for peace. It was for silence. The prosecution introduced photos showing that just weeks after the donation, Perry and Diddy appeared together at a BET event, arms around each other, smiling broadly as if no accusations were swirling. These images supported Monique's claim that the entertainment industry didn't just protect Diddy, it elevated him. Then she paused, looked directly at the judge and said, "I'm not afraid of being blackballed anymore. I've been through it. And let me tell you, silence is the most expensive price any of us pay, and we've all paid it." The courtroom was thick with tension, as if a hidden door had just been flung open. Monique sat on the witness stand, her gaze steady, hands resting lightly on the table. She showed no fear, no hesitation. After her revelations about Tyler Perry and the $1 million donation, everyone waited for what she would say next. No one dared blink, afraid to miss the moment that could change everything. She reached into her bag, pulling out a stack of papers and placing them before her. This, she said, her voice low but sharp, is the transcript of the call, the one where Tyler Perry admitted he was wrong. Whispers rippled through the room. Some in the gallery leaned forward, straining to hear. The jurors paused, their note-taking eyes fixed on Monique. She held up the papers like a hard-won trophy. "I've been saying for years that Tyler apologized for how I was treated after Precious," she continued. "But now I'm saying it under oath, and I have proof." She handed the documents to a court officer who carefully delivered them to the judge. The judge scanned the first few lines, expression stern, then nodded for the prosecution to proceed. The transcript, Monique explained, captured exactly what Perry said during their 2018 call. "I know I messed up," Perry reportedly said. "You weren't difficult. You just didn't want to work for free. I should have said that publicly." But then he shifted, warning that going public would cause trouble. "Puff's tied up in too much right now," Perry said, per the transcript. "You don't understand, Monique. If I speak out, everything falls apart." The prosecutors seized this moment to argue that even those with spotless reputations like Perry feared the fallout if Diddy's secrets unraveled. Monique added, her voice heavy with emotion. "He had a chance to clear my name. He didn't because he was protecting something bigger, something darker than anyone wants to admit." The judge ruled the transcript admissible, a major victory for the prosecution. Diddy's defense team looked visibly rattled. A friendly phone call had just become legal ammunition. Diddy sat still, hands clasped tightly, but his eyes betrayed unease. Court reporters scribbled furiously, knowing this story would spread worldwide within hours. Then Monique took a deep breath, ready to drop another bombshell. She looked directly at the jury, her voice slow but weighty. "Oprah Winfrey." The name hit like a thunderclap. The courtroom fell silent save for the rustle of papers and a few muffled coughs. Oprah, a symbol of compassion and power, hadn't been mentioned once in the trial's first 5 days. Monique didn't invoke her name casually. She had a purpose. In 2010, she began. "I shared something personal with Oprah. I told her I was abused by my brother as a child. She promised she'd never exploit that. But she did." The room seemed to hold its breath. Monique recounted how Oprah invited her brother onto her show right after Monique declined to join the Precious press tour. "I couldn't believe it," she said, her voice trembling slightly with emotion. "I asked her why. She said it was just business. But I knew the truth. They were trying to shut me up." She paused, letting her words sink in. Then she continued linking Oprah Perry and Diddy through their shared use of non-disclosure agreements, crisis PR teams, and mutual handlers. "They all have the same people cleaning up their messes," she said. "I know this because one of those PR reps accidentally forwarded me an email chain." She presented a redacted version of that email chain, which the judge accepted for review. In the email's Monique's name, Diddy's and Perry's appeared in the subject line alongside plans to manage public optics. Though the full details weren't revealed, Monique's message was unmistakable. The power structure didn't just protect Diddy, it was meticulously coordinated. Signed NDAs, payoffs, and careers, built or buried, all hinged on who played by the rules. Monique, under oath, called it a silence machine designed to crush anyone who dared ask questions. The jury listened intently as she closed her binder. She didn't falter. She didn't need to. For the first time, she wasn't just telling her story. She was testifying. When the court reconvened after a brief recess, the air remained charged. Reporters whispered, speculating on what she'd say next, but when Monique returned to the stand, she did something no one expected. She took a breath, scanned the room, and said with a calm but magnetic voice, "Now let's talk about the list." The courtroom froze. The prosecution leaned in, eager for her to continue. "There's a list in Hollywood," she said. "It's not written down, but everyone knows it exists. It's the list of people you don't speak against, the untouchables. Puff was on that list. Tyler was on that list. And Oprah, she practically created it." Murmurs erupted, but Monique pressed on. She explained that this list wasn't a physical document, but an invisible boundary. The moment you criticize one of these figures, even with proof you were branded difficult, crazy, or worse, dangerous to the industry. She shared how she'd crossed that boundary in 2010 and had been fighting to reclaim her place ever since. "Don't you ever wonder," she asked the jury, her voice haunting, "why do so many people who worked with Diddy, Tyler, or Oprah just vanish?" She mentioned actors who had one breakout role, one award season buzz, then disappeared. Some didn't play the game, she said. Some said no, and some saw things they were never meant to see. The room grew stifling. Monique was permitted to read a brief statement from a former actor, anonymized for protection. The actor described a retreat hosted by a powerful filmmaker where phones were confiscated, contracts signed, and strange rituals observed. Monique didn't explicitly name Tyler Perry, but she didn't deny the implication either. She let the jury sit with the unease. The judge reminded everyone these were allegations, but Monique's message was clear. The industry wasn't protecting art, it was protecting secrets. "They'll take your career, your reputation, your peace," she said, "and leave you to explain to the world why your phone stops ringing." When asked directly if she believed Diddy played a role in sabotaging her career, Monique nodded. Yes. Not at first, but eventually yes. She recounted how after the Precious campaign fallout, when the blackballing began, she received a call from a junior executive at Revolt TV, Diddy's media company. "He told me word for word, you rubbed the wrong people. It's not just Tyler and Oprah. Puff doesn't like noise either." The courtroom leaned in, riveted. Monique said the executive hinted that Diddy had been approached by Perry's team for future project partnerships. The deal was straightforward. Monique was the obstacle. She revealed that multiple closed-door meetings between Perry and Diddy took place, which she later learned about through mutual contacts. "They discussed my name," she said, "not as talent, but as a problem." The prosecution presented emails between a PR firm hired by both Revolt and Tyler Perry Studios discussing how to manage narratives around Monique and Cassie Ventura. It was the first time the court saw a direct digital link showing both women's reputations being manipulated in tandem. The moment landed hard. Monique continued saying the difficult label was deliberately spread. They used that word like a virus, she said. Infect one casting director and it spreads everywhere. Soon your name comes up in a room and they already have a reason to say no. Then she said something rarely uttered under oath in Hollywood. I wasn't blackballed by white people, she said, her voice heavy with conviction. I was whiteballed by black people, people who looked like me, who feared losing their own spot more than doing what's right. The courtroom went still. Monique looked around, her eyes betraying exhaustion but burning with resolve. I didn't want to be here, she said, but I had to be. Because what they did to me, to Cassie, to young men and women right now, it won't stop unless someone speaks louder than them. She shared that 2 months earlier, the prosecution had reached out. At first she refused. I didn't want to relive that pain, she said. I didn't want to expose my family, my trauma, or my hurt again. But then she saw the Prince video. She saw Diddy shouting in court. She saw Cassie break down on the stand. That's when I broke, she said. Monique described her decision to testify as a moment of clarity. I heard my grandmother's voice in my head saying, "Baby, don't let them write your story without you in the room." And I knew I had to come. Her final minutes on the stand were profound. The prosecution asked, "In your opinion, what's the root cause of this entire system of silence?" Monique answered with certainty, "You are. Everyone in this industry is scared. Scared to lose a job, a deal, their relevance. And scared to tell the truth because people like Puff, like Tyler, and yes, like Oprah have made it so expensive to do so." She looked toward Diddy and said softly but powerfully, "You thought no one would talk, that you built an empire strong enough to silence everyone. But now you're sitting in silence, and I hope you hear us." As she stepped down, reporters noted. Diddy looked shaken. His hands trembled slightly. His lawyer whispered urgently. The gallery didn't erupt in noise, but in energy. It was the moment the courtroom felt the tide shift. Monique, sidelined by Hollywood for over a decade, had just become the trial's most powerful voice. The courtroom hung in a haunting stillness, as if the entire world held its breath. Monique stood on the witness stand, her piercing gaze sweeping the room. After shaking the gallery with her talk of the untouchable list and naming powerful figures, she wasn't done. The air felt heavy, almost suffocating. Jurors clutched their pens, eyes locked on her. Reporters stopped writing, hands trembling as they sensed the weight of this moment. She took a deep breath, her voice ringing out, not loud but sharp enough to command every ear. "You want to talk about power? You want to talk about silence? Ask Tyler Perry why I was blackballed after refusing to work for free." Her words didn't boom like a shout. They cut cold and precise, like a blade drawn from its sheath. She stared directly at Diddy's legal team, her eyes unwavering. "And look at who stood beside him at every event," she continued. Whispers erupted across the room. Some in the gallery exchanged glances, trying to grasp her meaning. Tyler Perry wasn't on trial, his name absent from the indictment. But Monique wasn't talking about legality. She was exposing a culture, a system where the powerful shielded each other, and she was tearing down the curtain, hiding it. She raised a folder, not yet submitted as evidence, but commanding attention. "Ask the producers," she said, her voice firm. "Ask the agents. Ask Lee Daniels. I've got the call logs." Diddy's lawyers shot to their feet, objecting with strained voices, but the judge motioned for her to continue. Though the folder wasn't admitted, Monique's words seared into the jurors' minds. She was painting a vivid picture, a network of influence that not only protected Diddy but punished anyone who dared defy it. "I know who was at those parties," she said, her voice lowering, drawing everyone into a secret. "I know which NDAs were forced. I saw people sign them right in front of me." She paused, letting the silence amplify her words. Then she pressed on. "They told me to stay quiet. They told me to be grateful for being there. But when I spoke up, my work dried up. The courtroom was captivated. Jurors leaned forward, their faces a mix of curiosity and shock. Reporters scribbled frantically, knowing each word was a headline waiting to explode." Then Nique dropped another bombshell. "I have audio," she said, her voice calm but sharp as a knife. "A phone call where Tyler admitted everything. He apologized but refused to go public. He said it would ruin it all." She locked eyes with the jury, her gaze piercing. "I'm done protecting men who never protected me." The statement struck like a thunderbolt, slicing through every layer of pretense. It wasn't just testimony, it was a declaration of war, not just against Diddy, but against the entire system that let him thrive unchecked. The room surged with energy, though no one dared speak. Diddy's lawyers whispered urgently, scrambling for a counter. But Nique didn't stop. She turned back to Tyler Perry, her voice now tinged with exhaustion and resolve. "He never lifted a finger to help me," she said, "but he made calls to ensure no one else would." She recounted how after being pushed to the sidelines, she heard from an industry insider that Perry had contacted directors and producers, planting the idea that she was a risk. "They don't need to say it outright," she explained. "A hint, a whisper, is enough to slam the door shut." She recalled a moment that stunned the courtroom. "I was once invited to a major event," she said, "the kind of party everyone in the industry begs to attend. But when I arrived, an agent pulled me aside and said, 'Nique, you shouldn't be here. Someone doesn't want you here.' I asked who. They wouldn't say, but I knew." She looked toward Diddy, her eyes unflinching. "I knew it was Puff, and I knew Tyler was behind it." The prosecution quickly capitalized on her testimony. They introduced additional evidence, a series of messages from a former Tyler Perry Studios employee suggesting Nique was deliberately excluded from a film project because she didn't fit the image. The messages didn't directly name Diddy, but their timing aligned with an event where Diddy and Perry appeared together, reinforcing Nique's narrative of a coordinated effort to silence her. The judge admitted the messages as evidence, further unsettling Diddy's legal team. Then Nique shifted, her voice slowing, as if urging everyone to feel each word. "This system doesn't just protect Puff," she said. "It protects an entire industry. The people who sign contracts, the people who take money, the people afraid to lose their spotlight, they're all part of it." She shared that after leaving the 2006 party, she began noticing patterns. Young, promising actors vanished after declining an invitation. Producers who once greeted her warmly started avoiding her. "I wasn't the only one," she said, "but I'm the one sitting here saying it out loud." She told a story that sent chills through the courtroom. "I knew an actor," she said, withholding the name to protect their identity. She was invited to a party like the one I went to. She signed an NDA thinking it was routine. But later, she told me she saw things she couldn't unsee. She wanted to leave, but they told her she'd gone too far. That actor, Nique, said never recovered. Her career crumbled, and she left Hollywood carrying fear with her. "They make you feel like there's no way out," Nique said, "but I'm here to say there is a way out. And it starts with the truth." The prosecution asked if she believed Diddy was at the core of this system. Nique nodded, her voice steady. "He didn't act alone," she said, but he was a key piece. He had the money, the power, and the people willing to do anything to keep him on top. She revealed that over the years she'd heard whispers from industry insiders, people who worked with Diddy attended his parties and saw things they didn't dare speak of. They're scared, she said, not just of losing their jobs. They're scared of what happens if they talk. She faced the jury, her voice now a call to action. This system isn't just about Puff, she said. It's about everyone who let him keep going. The people who knew but stayed silent. The people who saw but turned away. I'm here not just for me, but for everyone who didn't get a chance to sit on this stand. Her words sent a jolt through the room. Some jurors bowed their heads, grappling with emotion. Reporters stopped writing, staring at her, caught in the power of her testimony. Then Monique did something that stunned the courtroom. She turned to Diddy, her eyes locking onto his. "You were wrong to think the silence would last forever," she said, her voice soft but fierce. "You were wrong to think no one would face you." Diddy didn't respond. He sat frozen, hands clenched, but his eyes flickered as if feeling the weight of what was unfolding for the first time. His lawyers tried to whisper, but no one paid attention. All eyes were on Monique. She turned back to the jury, her voice now carrying a calm authority. "I've lost a lot," she said. "My career, my reputation, opportunities I deserved, but I didn't lose my voice. And today I'm using it to speak for those who can't." She shared that after deciding to testify, she braced herself for everything. She knew the powerful would try to silence her as they had before, but this time, she said, they can't. "Because I'm not standing alone. I'm standing with Cassie, with others, and with the truth." The prosecution asked their final question. "Ms. Jackson, why did you choose to speak out knowing the cost?" Monique gave a faint smile, the first during her testimony. "Because I'm tired of being afraid," she said. "Because I want the young people coming up not to live in this system. And because I know if I don't speak, no one will." She paused, scanning the room. "The truth is the only thing stronger than power. And today, I brought the truth here." As she finished, the courtroom fell silent. No one clapped, no one spoke, but the energy surged. Jurors looked at her, some with glistening eyes. Reporters began writing again, hands shaking with emotion. Diddy sat motionless, his face like stone. His lawyers whispered, but their confidence was gone. Monique stood stepping down from the stand with slow, proud steps. She didn't look back at Diddy or anyone else. She left the courtroom, leaving behind a silence louder than any words. But the final moment as she prepared to leave the stand was unforgettable. She paused, turned to Diddy's legal team, and said in a voice soft but razor-sharp, "Tyler Perry." The name uttered once more was a reminder she wasn't finished. Ask him why she said. Ask him who was behind it all, and ask him why he chose silence. The courtroom erupted in murmurs. Some gasped, trying to process her words, but Monique didn't explain further. She'd said enough. As the courtroom door closed behind her, reporters scrambled to write, knowing this story would shake the world. The jurors sat quietly as if absorbing what they'd heard. Diddy, for the first time in the trial, bowed his head, hands covering his face. Monique hadn't just testified. She'd changed the game. She'd transformed from a woman sidelined by Hollywood into the most powerful voice in the courtroom, and no one could silence her.